The wind over Arkenvale carried the dust of old stars. It whispered through the glass grass, that strange silver-blue flora that only grew in the soil scorched by dragon fire. The field stretched as far as the horizon, shimmering beneath a pale sky where two suns were slowly setting. In that luminous quiet, the girl knelt beside the mound. Her shadow lay long over the grave. She had no right to be there. No human did. The plaque at her knees, carved from obsidian and inset with runes that no longer glowed, read simply, "Here rests Karoth the Last Flame, Scourge and Savior." The words had been written in 3 languages: Draconic, Galactic Trade, and English. Only one of those languages was hers, and even then, she didn't understand the weight of what she was reading. Not really. How could she? The war had ended before she was born. The treaties signed, the ashes left to cool, the dragons long gone from the stars. But something in her bones had drawn her here. Her name was Mara Ellen Terrace, 17 years old, daughter of 2 frontier colonists who lived 3 systems away, on a station orbiting a dead world. She'd come here on an unsanctioned ship, hidden among trade crates of minerals and circuit glass. She wasn't supposed to leave her colony, but the dreams had left her little choice. For nearly a year now, they had haunted her. The sound of wings over endless dark, the taste of ozone, the cry of a voice that was not human but knew her name. When she finally stepped onto Arkenvale, the world where the last dragon had fallen, something in her heart had gone utterly still. The grave was larger than she'd imagined. Not just a tomb, but a monument. The bones of a being vast beyond comprehension resting beneath layers of crystallized soil. Even the hills curved like ribs beneath the horizon. She placed her hand on the surface, tracing the engraved scales. "The metal was cold. You called me," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "I don't know why, but I came," the wind answered, carrying a sound almost like a sigh. For a long time she said nothing more. The suns fell lower, their twin lights bleeding gold across the silver grass. She took a small recorder from her pack, an old analog thing her father had repaired from the wreckage of some pre-Federation ship. She turned it on, the gears clicking softly, and spoke into it. "Audio log, number... I don't even know. It's me, Mara. Coordinates, Arkenvale, confirmed location of the dragon's grave. I'm here. I made it. No authorities yet. The air's breathable, temperature dropping as the sun set. No wildlife except the wind. I think I can hear something." She paused, listening, and then she did hear it. Faint, like the memory of thunder beneath the soil. It wasn't just her imagination. The ground was humming. Mara held her breath, pressing her palm flat to the grave. The vibration grew stronger, not violent but rhythmic, like a heartbeat buried deep within the planet. For one impossible instant, she swore she felt warmth through the stone. The hair on her arms lifted. "Hello?" she said again, louder this time. "If someone's here—" The hum faded. Silence fell so thick she could hear her own pulse. The sky above had turned a deeper indigo, stars emerging one by one, so many stars she felt dizzy looking at them. She lowered herself to sit cross-legged by the grave. She was exhausted. Maybe it was just the planet's core or tectonic movement. Maybe she was imagining things. Still, her heart felt like it was tethered to something vast and old beneath her feet. She took the recorder again. "Continuation of log," she said quietly. "I don't think this was a mistake. I think I was supposed to come here. Dad said dragons were just ancient bioweapons, genetically engineered war beasts left over from the stellar conflicts. But the dreams, they don't feel like war. They feel sad, like something unfinished." Her voice faltered. "I think someone's still listening." The stars brightened, reflecting in her eyes. The night deepened, and the 2 moons began to rise, one pale as bone, the other tinted crimson. Mara wrapped her arms around her knees and listened to the wind. At some point she began to hum. It was a tune she didn't remember learning. Soft, lilting, wordless. Something her mother might have sung once, before she was gone. The melody carried across the glass grass, threading through the night air like a ribbon, And far, far above, something in orbit turned its gaze. It began as a low tremor on the old Federation relay network, an ancient satellite still half-functional after centuries of disrepair. It detected the sound, cataloged it as an unauthorized transmission, and relayed it to a node that shouldn't have existed anymore. That node, buried in the black archives of the galactic net, lit up for the first time in 412 years. Inside the archive, code stirred. Encryption patterns that had once belonged to the draconic hive minds began to unravel, reacting to the human voice. A phrase appeared, written in glowing glyphs that no living linguist could translate. The air sings. And across the void, signals began to wake. Mara didn't know any of this. All she knew was that the stars felt closer that night than they ever had before. She fell asleep beside the grave. When she dreamed, she stood in firelight. The world around her wasn't Arkan Vale anymore. It was a plain of obsidian glass, reflecting a sky torn by storms. She saw wings, massive crimson gold wings, unfolding across the horizon, each movement stirring the air with a sound like thunder. The dragon was there, not dead, not gone. Its eyes were twin novas, burning with intelligence and sorrow. "You came," it said. And though the voice was not a sound but a vibration inside her mind, it felt achingly real. "Who are you?" she asked, breathless. "I am Karoth," said the being, "the last flame. You stand upon my bones." Mara's throat closed. "You're dead," a sound that might have been laughter or grief. "Not all deaths are endings. The galaxy remembers my fire in its metal and blood. I am gone, but I am also everywhere the light touches. I have waited for you." "For me?" she said. I'm no one." The dragon's eyes flared. "You are human." The word was heavy like an oath. "When we burned the stars in the Great War, your kind sang even as your worlds fell. You did not yield. You reminded the void what it means to endure. That song is the only thing the dark ever feared. And now the dark is coming again." Mara shook her head. "I don't understand." "You will." The dragon lowered its head, so vast that she could see galaxies reflected in its scales. "The song within you is not memory. It is inheritance. When the first fire died, it left its echo in the children of flesh and bone. That is why I called. I need you to remember what we once sang together." "But I don't know any song." "You will." The dragon's voice softened. "When you wake, listen to the stars. They are already listening to you." The light engulfed her. Mara woke with tears on her face and the taste of ash on her tongue. The sky was gray now, dawn creeping over the glass grass. The grave beneath her hand felt warmer than before, as if something within it still held breath. Her recorder was still on, its light blinking softly. She reached for it with trembling fingers. "Audio log. I don't know what time it is. I saw him. The dragon, Karoth. It wasn't just a dream. I swear it wasn't. He said something's coming. That we have something inside us. A song." She stopped, voice cracking. "If anyone finds this, I know how it sounds. Crazy. But it's real." Her voice broke completely then, but she didn't stop recording. "I can feel it. Something's moving out there, like the stars are leaning closer." She ended the log, sitting very still. The silence of Arkan Vale had changed. The air carried a faint vibration again. Steady now, almost musical. She realized slowly that it was following her heartbeat. Her breath came in shallow waves. Then she saw it. A flicker of light on the horizon. Not sunrise, not the moons. Something else. A ship, perhaps, descending through the atmosphere, trailing light. But it wasn't the sleek silver of human design. It was alive, organic metal shifting and glowing as it moved. She stood, her pulse hammering. It was coming toward her. The ship, or whatever it was, landed half a kilometer away, folding its wings like a bird made of molten glass. Mara hesitated, her instincts screaming to hide, but something deeper compelled her forward. She ran, the grass whispering around her until she stood before it. It was beautiful. A living vessel, scales of translucent metal that shimmered in color with each breath of wind. And there, standing at its base, was a figure, not human, but not unlike, tall, lithe, with eyes that glowed faintly blue and a crest of metallic filaments down the spine. The alien looked at her with something between recognition and awe. "You sang," it said. Its voice was a harmony of tones, like chords resonating in her bones. "The galaxy heard." Mara swallowed hard. I didn't mean to." "No one ever does," the being replied softly. "But the Echo Protocol has awakened." The last flame called, and a human answered. "The cycle begins again." "What cycle?" "The war that never ended," the alien said, and for the first time fear flickered across its strange, elegant face. "And the song that can end it." The wind rose again, carrying that low, thrumming tone from beneath the grave. It wasn't just a hum now, it was a melody. Faint, rising, ancient, the sound of something vast remembering itself. Mara turned toward the mound, heart pounding, and the alien fell silent beside her. The suns had fully risen now, lighting the field in gold. From beneath the earth, something answered her song. The ground trembled, a low thrumming resonance that seemed to echo inside her chest. Mara could feel it in her bones, like a heartbeat that was not her own, pulsing through the soil and the air and even the light. The alien beside her, the being of metal and living light, knelt, pressing one long-fingered hand to the ground as if listening through the skin of the world. The wind had died completely, but the sound beneath the surface had grown louder. It was no longer just a hum. It had shape, rhythm, a pattern like a voice spoken in the language of stars. "What is that?" Mara whispered, her throat dry. "The song of the first flame," the alien said softly, reverent. "It has not been heard since the fall of the last dragon." "Then why now?" The alien's gaze flicked toward her, those luminous blue eyes studying her with a mixture of fear and awe. "Because you woke it." Mara took a step back. "No, that's impossible. I'm just human." "That's precisely why," the being murmured. "The dragons forged you as their heirs. The song of life, of resistance, of creation. It was written into your blood. For eons it slept. Until now," the words made her dizzy. She shook her head, trying to clear it. "No, we weren't. Humans weren't made by dragons. We evolved on Earth. Earth," the alien interrupted, rolling the word across its tongue as though testing its weight. "Yes, the seed world. The first of your kind to stand beneath the stars and sing against the void. We know the myths, but myths are only memory in disguise. The dragons didn't make you. They chose you." The sound beneath the earth deepened, and for an instant the world seemed to breathe. The silver-blue grass bent outward in a perfect circle around the grave, as though moved by a silent wind. From somewhere deep below, a flare of orange-gold light flickered, faint but unmistakable. It cast ripples across the glassy field. Mara could barely speak. "Is he alive?" The alien hesitated. "Not in the way you mean." But his essence, the last spark of his consciousness, was woven into this world. The dragons did not believe in final death. They left echoes, waiting to be awakened by the right voice. "And mine was the right one?" "Yours," the alien said, "was the only one." The weight of those words pressed down on her like the gravity of a dying star. She turned toward the grave again, heart pounding. The light was pulsing now, faint but rhythmic, matching her heartbeat exactly. She could feel the connection tightening. Something vast and old reaching through her mind like a memory too ancient to belong to her. "What's your name?" she asked the alien without looking away. "Vera," the being said after a pause. "I am a keeper of the choir. My order has waited for the flame to stir again. We thought it might never happen. And now that it has?" "Now," Vera said quietly, "everything will change." The light flared again, brighter this time, and the grave split open. Not violently. No explosion or burst of soil. It was more like the surface of the world simply unstitched itself, the crystalline grass parting in intricate spirals. Beneath it lay not bones, but metal, ancient metal, black and gold, shaped in patterns that glowed faintly with heat. It wasn't a body at all. It was a vessel, dragon-shaped, vast and dormant, wings folded beneath layers of time. Mara's breath caught. That's a ship." "Yes," said Vera. "And no, the dragons didn't build ships. They were ships. Flesh and fire, mind and engine as one. What you see is Karoth's last shell." Mara stepped closer despite herself. The heat from the exposed hull warmed her face. It felt alive. Her fingertips brushed the surface and she gasped. Images flashed behind her eyes. The black sea of space, the thunder of wings made of plasma, worlds burning beneath a storm of light. But beneath it all was something else. Sorrow, deep and endless. She staggered back. "I saw everything," she whispered. "The war, the fire, the end." Vera's expression softened. "You touched his memory." The dragon's final song was one of despair. They believed they had failed to protect what they loved most. What did they love? Mara asked. Vera looked at her as though the answer were obvious. "You." A silence stretched between them, heavy as stone. The air shimmered faintly, the hum growing softer again. Mara felt tears sting her eyes, though she didn't understand why. The idea that something so immense, something that had fought across galaxies, could have loved her species seemed impossible. And yet standing there, she could feel it. The grief in the air wasn't just ancient. It was personal. Vera's head tilted, as if hearing something she couldn't. "Others are coming," they said suddenly. "What others?" Signal echoes. "The choir are awakening across the network." "But not only them. The worm-kin will hear it too." Mara frowned. "The what?" "The dragons were not the only ones born of flame," Vera said grimly. "Their shadows remained. When the dragons fell, something else rose from their ashes. Creatures of pure entropy, born of the void that devoured their fire. We called them the worm-kin. They feed on song, on light, on life itself." A chill ran through Mara's spine. "You mean they'll come here?" "They already are." As if summoned by the words, the horizon darkened. Not clouds, shapes, silhouettes cutting across the rising sun, sleek and jagged, glinting with black fire. Ships, but wrong. They moved like living things, their hulls rippling with tendrils of energy. Even from this distance, Mara could feel them, an emptiness pressing at her thoughts like static. "What do we do?" she asked. "We awaken him fully," Vera said, stepping toward the exposed vessel. "You have to finish what you began." "I don't know how." "You do," the alien said, turning to her. "It's in your blood. The melody of creation. The same song you sang in your sleep. Sing again, human." "Let the flame remember its heart." Mara's pulse thundered in her ears. The idea was absurd, but then again, so was everything else that had happened. She swallowed hard, looking at the dragon ship, the grave, the light. Her throat was tight with fear, but also something else. A strange certainty that if she didn't do this, no one would. She took a step closer. The hum rose to meet her. Her lips parted. At first, no sound came out. Then, slowly, a note. A single, trembling tone that hung in the air. She let it build, the melody forming without thought. It wasn't language, but emotion. Longing, sorrow, defiance. Her voice wove with the hum, harmonizing with it, until the ground itself seemed to sing with her. The air shimmered, the light pulsed brighter, gold and white, swirling upward like fire given form. Vera stood motionless, watching with wide eyes as the grave fully opened. The hull beneath her hands began to move, plates shifting, wings unfolding in silence. The dragon's shape reformed, luminous veins igniting across its vast body. The air rippled with heat. A roar, not of sound but of energy, burst outward, knocking Mara to her knees. When she looked up, she saw eyes, two massive, burning eyes opening above her. Not flesh and blood, but light and memory. Karoth's consciousness, awakened in its metal tomb, looked down upon her with the weight of an ancient sun. The voice that followed was both in her head and all around her. "You remember the song?" Mara's lips trembled. "You told me to." And so the fire burns again. The dragon's wings stretched, blotting out the sky. The void stirs. The wormkin gather. We will not let them consume the light. Vera dropped to one knee, bowing deeply. Last flame, we kept your vigil as you commanded. You have done well, Keeper, Karoth rumbled. But it is not I who will save this galaxy. It is her. Mara shook her head in disbelief. Me? I can't. I'm not. You are the voice of the new dawn. The dragon's eyes softened, the intensity of a dying star dimming into something gentler. Where we burned worlds, you will heal them. Where we silenced the stars, you will teach them to sing again. That is the human gift. That is why we chose you. Above them, the dark shapes drew closer, wormkin ships descending like a storm. The air crackled with their energy. Vera rose, voice taut with urgency. Flame, we cannot face them here. We need to move. Then we fly, said the dragon, and the world shook as its wings unfurled fully. Dust and light burst outward, and the metal beneath Mara's feet shifted. Panels opened, revealing a platform of golden scales. Come, heir of flame, Karoth said. The stars await your song. Mara hesitated only a heartbeat before stepping onto the platform. The surface adjusted beneath her, humming with energy. She looked once at Vera, who followed without question, and then back at the horizon where the black ships loomed. Let's go, she said. The dragon rose. The sound was indescribable. Part thunder, part music, part memory of creation itself. Fire trailed from the wings as Karoth lifted into the air, his body blazing like a newborn sun. The ground below erupted into waves of molten light. The wormkin ships altered course, converging on them. Vera stood beside Mara, their expression unreadable. You understand, human. This is only the beginning. Mara gripped the railing, her voice steady for the first time. Then let's start it right. The sky shattered into motion. Bolts of void energy streaked toward them, but Karoth moved with impossible grace, weaving between them, every movement an echo of life reborn. When he roared, the sound wasn't destruction. It was hope given sound. The very stars seemed to answer. As they broke through the atmosphere, the blackness of space opened around them, filled with distant fires and drifting wreckage from wars long dead. Yet beneath the silence of the void, Mara could still hear it. The song. Her song. The song of humanity, of dragons, of everything that refused to fade quietly into darkness. And somewhere, deep in the fabric of space itself, other voices began to join. The choir waking across the galaxy, old ships reigniting, forgotten systems coming back online, drawn by that one human voice singing beside a dragon's grave. The galaxy was listening again. Space burned around them like a living sea of fire and shadow. Karoth's wings stretched wide as he soared through the void, each beat scattering trails of molten gold that twisted into spirals of starlight. The wormkin ships followed close behind, sleek, jagged creatures of darkness, their bodies pulsing with the cold blue glow of entropic energy. They didn't move like machines. They swam, they hunted, they hungered. Mara clung to the railing of the dragon's living hull, her breath shallow in the press of acceleration. The stars blurred into streaks of light around her. Her stomach turned, but she didn't dare close her eyes. The scale of it all, the sheer vastness of the cosmos, felt too overwhelming to blink away. She had never been beyond the small frontier station of her home system, never seen the true immensity of the galaxy. Now she was flying through it on the back of a dragon who had once scorched worlds. Beside her, Vera stood motionless, the glow from their eyes reflected in the shifting gold of Karoth's scales. They are gaining, they said quietly, their voice low but steady. The wormkin never relent. They will follow until the light is gone. Then we don't let it go, Mara said, though her voice trembled. Can't Karoth fight them? I can, came the dragon's voice, resonant through her bones. But I will not fight as I once did. Every flame I cast tears the stars themselves. And this galaxy has burned enough. Vera bowed their head slightly. Then we run. We move, Karoth corrected. There is a place where my kind once wove our songs into the lattice of creation. A place of beginning. The forge of suns. If we can reach it, the fire can be renewed. And the wormkin will find no sustenance there. Where is it? Mara asked. At the heart of the spiral, the dragon said, far beyond the reach of Federation maps. But distance means little when fire remembers the path. The stars around them bent. The feeling wasn't like entering a jump gate or hyperstream. It was older, deeper, as though reality itself bowed in deference. Mara's body went weightless. The colors of space twisted. Blue became gold, black became white, and then, with a sound like a sigh, the void folded open. They emerged into a region unlike anything she had ever seen. A nebula vast enough to swallow systems, swirling with rivers of crimson and violet light. Floating within it were colossal structures, rings and spires, the remnants of something built by beings far beyond human understanding. Some glowed faintly, others drifted dark and cold, crumbling in silence. In the distance, a faint golden sphere pulsed like a heart. Vera whispered, "The Forge." Karoth's voice carried reverence. Here the first songs were born. Here we gave fire to the stars. Mara felt a shiver trace down her spine. It's beautiful. It is dying, Karoth said softly. The silence has spread here too. Even as he spoke, the shadows at the edge of the nebula shifted. The wormkin had followed, dozens of them now, their sleek bodies carving black wounds through the light. The largest of them led the swarm, a leviathan of void energy shaped like a serpent of glass and smoke. Its voice rolled across space like thunder. "Karoth, the last flame," it said, the words echoing through Mara's skull. "You defy entropy itself once more. How many times must you burn before you accept the dark?" "I have burned enough," Karoth replied. "But this flame does not belong to me anymore." The great worm's eyes flared. "Ah, the human child." The voice slithered through her thoughts, oily and cold. "So this is the new vessel of your defiance. Fragile, weak, bound by breath. She will sing for us soon enough." Mara's pulse spiked. "Stay out of my head. You cannot bar the void from what it owns." Karoth roared. Not a sound, but a vibration that shattered the whispering darkness. "She is not yours." The fire of his wings flared brighter, pushing back the tendrils of shadow. "Begone, old hunger. This light was never yours to claim." The wormkin shrieked, the smaller ones darting forward, firing lances of dark energy. They struck against Karoth's golden scales, flaring in sparks of shadow. The dragon's body shook, but he did not falter. He turned, twisting through the debris of the nebula, weaving between the ruins of ancient rings. "Mara!" Vera called over the rising noise. "He can't hold them all off." "The forge can help him if you reach its core." "How?" she shouted back. "The song. The dragon's music built this place. Only the air can wake it again." Mara's eyes widened. "You mean me?" "There is no one else." The words struck her like lightning. Her body felt numb, her mind spinning. She wanted to protest, to say she was just a girl from a mining colony, not some savior of galaxies. But there wasn't time. The black serpents were closing in, and Karoth's flame was dimming with every strike. "Go, child," the dragon said, his voice fierce but tender. "I will keep them at bay. Remember what you are." The dragon shifted, and a bridge of golden light extended from his back toward the largest of the ruined spires. Vera seized her hand. "Come!" They ran. The moment Mara's feet touched the bridge, gravity shifted again. Every step felt like walking through a heartbeat, the rhythm of the universe itself pulsing beneath her soles. Behind them, Karoth clashed with the wormkin, fire and shadow tearing the nebula apart. She could feel his pain, his rage, his hope. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was emotion made visible, bleeding across the stars. The spire's entrance was a wound in reality, an opening that glowed faintly blue. Inside, the walls pulsed like veins of glass, light running through them in rhythmic waves. Vera guided her through the maze of corridors, their steps echoing like distant drums. "What is this place?" Mara asked breathlessly. "The Forge's heart was once a living mind," Vera said. "It listened to the songs of the dragons and shaped the suns accordingly. It has been asleep for millennia." They reached a vast chamber, a sphere of open air suspended in light. At its center floated a crystalline structure, like a flower made of starlight, its petals folding and unfolding slowly. Around it, fragments of machinery drifted silently. The core of the forge. Vera turned to her. "You must sing." Mara stared, heart hammering. "I don't know if I can." "You already have," Vera said. "When you woke Karoth, the galaxy listened. The same song will wake this place. You just have to let it through." Her throat was tight. Her voice felt too small, too fragile for a task like this. But when she closed her eyes, she remembered the dream. The dragon's eyes, the warmth of his fire, the sorrow of a universe that had forgotten how to hope. The melody came like a whisper at first, a memory waiting to be born. She began to hum. The sound grew, soft but steady, weaving through the air. The petals of the crystalline core shivered, then began to glow brighter. Light raced through the chamber's walls. Vera stepped back, awe on their face. "Keep going," they urged. "It's answering you." Mara opened her mouth and let the melody bloom into words. Not in English, not in any language she knew, but in the ancient tongue she'd heard in her dreams. It felt like the universe itself was singing through her lungs. The sound rose higher, brighter, until the chamber shook with its resonance. Energy spiraled outward, rippling across the nebula. Outside, the dragon's forge woke from its long sleep. Karoth felt it before he saw it. The surge of ancient power. The return of warmth to the void. His flames brightened, his roar renewed. The wormkin faltered, their shadows thinning beneath the rising light. "Yes," Karoth whispered through their shared bond. "Sing, child, sing!" Mara's voice broke into laughter and tears as the song carried her. She felt weightless, timeless, part of something endless. The forge's core bloomed open completely, releasing a wave of golden light that rippled through space like the heartbeat of a newborn star. The wormkin screamed as the wave struck them. Their dark forms disintegrated, torn apart by the light. Even the great serpent that had taunted them shrieked, its body unraveling into dust. The void screamed, and then went silent. When the light faded, only peace remained. Mara sank to her knees, exhausted. Her body trembled, her voice raw. Vera knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You did it," they whispered. "The forge lives again." She looked up through the open dome of the chamber. Outside, Karoth hovered in the nebula's glow. Wings spread wide. His scales shone brighter than before, every inch of him alive with the renewed fire of creation. He spoke softly, the warmth of his words wrapping around her like sunlight. "The stars breathe again." Mara smiled weakly. "I didn't do it alone." "No one ever sings alone," the dragon said. That is the lesson the dragons forgot. The nebula around them shimmered, the ruined spires slowly knitting themselves back together under the pulse of new energy. For the first time in ages, the Forge of Suns sang again, and its melody echoed across the galaxy. Vera stood, looking outward. "The choir will hear this. All who remember the old light will come. You've rekindled more than flame, Mara. You've awakened hope." Mara leaned back, breathing slowly. The stars outside looked different now, brighter, closer. "What happens next?" Karoth's gaze turned toward the endless horizon. "The wormkin are not gone. The void never sleeps. But it has been reminded that there is something stronger than hunger." She frowned slightly. "What's that?" "The song," the dragon said. "The voice that refuses to be silent." The light of the forge faded into a calm brilliance, like a dawn that would never end. Around them, the nebula's colors softened to gentle hues of rose and amber. The vast rings drifted quietly in the glow. No longer ruins, but newly woven into living shapes, threads of energy binding them together, as if the stars themselves were mending their wounds. Karoth hovered nearby, wings folded in reverent stillness, his golden eyes fixed on the forge's shining heart. Mara stood at the threshold of the chamber, her hands still trembling from the power that had poured through her. Every muscle in her body ached, but the exhaustion was wrapped in something luminous, a kind of peace she had never felt before. For a long moment she simply watched as the light spread, touching the broken structures and rekindling them. Even space itself seemed to sigh, as if relieved to feel warmth again. Vera's voice broke the silence. "It's done," they said softly. "The flame lives in you now, and the galaxy will feel it." Mara turned to them, her voice hoarse. I didn't mean for any of this. I just wanted to understand the dreams. I never thought I'd—" "You answered a call older than your world," Vera said gently. "No one ever means to. The song chooses its singer." She looked down, her reflection trembling in the golden floor beneath her feet. "Then what happens now?" Karath's shadow fell across her, vast and warm. "Now," the dragon said, "you must learn to carry the fire. It is not enough to awaken light. You must tend it." Mara frowned. "What does that mean?" "The forge burns again, but its song must be shared," Karath said. "There are countless worlds where silence has already taken root. The Wormkin have devoured stars, voices, civilizations. They fear the song because it reminds them they are hollow. You, Mara Ellen Terrace, will remind the galaxy that it can still sing." Her breath caught in her throat. "Me? Alone?" "Never alone," Karath said, a hint of a smile in his voice. "The choir has heard you." Even as he spoke, faint lights began to appear in the surrounding stars, one after another, like lanterns igniting across the void. Each light pulsed to the rhythm of her heartbeat. Vera's eyes widened in wonder. "The signals," they murmured. "All across the network. The other keepers are responding. The old stations, the lost fleets, even the sleeping colonies. They're waking." Mara stared in awe. The galaxy itself seemed to shimmer, as though countless unseen eyes were turning toward her. She didn't feel powerful or divine or chosen. She felt human, aching, frightened, amazed, and yet somehow that felt like exactly what the universe had been waiting for. Karath lowered himself toward the forge's platform, the vastness of his form shrinking until he stood like a being of pure light before her. His wings folded behind him, their edges dissolving into 1,000 tiny embers. He regarded her quietly for a moment, his gaze full of something almost paternal. "You remind me of the first human who sang beside us," he said softly. She too stood trembling in the dark, and yet she sang. Her name has been lost to time, but her song carried across 1,000 generations. You are her echo, and her continuation. Mara blinked back tears. "Why me, though? There are billions of us out there." "Because you listened," Karath said simply. "When the universe called, you didn't turn away." For a long while, no one spoke. The light of the forge hummed around them, warm and steady. Then, from far beyond the nebula, the silence trembled. A faint ripple passed through the stars, subtle but unmistakable. Vera turned sharply toward the soundless disturbance. "They're still out there," they said. "The Wormkin remnants. They won't accept this defeat." "No," Karath agreed. "The void never accepts. It only waits." Mara felt a chill brush against her skin, though the air was warm. "So it's not over." "Not yet," the dragon said. "But neither is it lost." Vera looked between them. "The choir will need guidance. The old networks are unstable. The humans will need to remember what was buried in their history, the truth of the flame, and the harmony that binds all life." Mara nodded slowly. "Then that's what I'll do. We'll tell them. We'll make them hear it." "We?" Karath asked, amused. She smiled faintly. "I'm not going alone, right?" Vera inclined their head. "I will go where the song leads." "It is what I was born for." The dragon's deep laughter rumbled softly like distant thunder. "Then we are agreed. The flame, the keeper, and the voice. 3 threads woven anew." They left the forge behind them, its light growing smaller as they rose above the nebula's veil. The stars spread out before them like an ocean of possibilities. For the first time in human history, the galaxy didn't feel vast and indifferent. It felt alive, listening. As they traveled, Mara began to feel it more clearly. The hum beneath the silence, the faint threads of melody connecting one star to another. She could sense where the light had faded, where the void had crept in. Whole sectors where the stars pulsed irregularly, struggling to hold their fire. Each one called to her in its own way. "Those are worlds in mourning," Vera explained softly as they watched the patterns shift. "The Wormkin leave emptiness behind. Not just destroyed matter, destroyed meaning, Mara swallowed. We can fix that. You can, Vera said. The dragon's fire can reignite suns, but it's the human voice that gives them purpose. Karoth's great wings stretched as he soared through the dark. Where shall we begin, heir of flame? Mara closed her eyes, feeling the pull of a faint, faltering melody. There, she said, pointing toward a cluster of dying stars at the edge of a spiral arm. I can hear it, like a heartbeat trying to find its rhythm. Karoth turned toward it without question. When they arrived, the sight was heartbreaking. A system of 7 worlds, orbiting a dim, failing sun. The planets were cracked and frozen, their atmospheres thin and pale. Wormkin scars stretched across the system like black veins, remnants of the creatures feeding. The light here was brittle, afraid. Karoth hovered in silence, his gaze full of sorrow. I remember this place, he said. Once dragons nested here. We taught its people to craft wings of flame. They called themselves the Valir. The void took them. Mara looked down at the broken worlds. Then we'll give it back. She stood at the edge of the dragon's back and began to hum again. The sound was faint, nearly lost in the emptiness. But even the faintest note carried power when sung with truth. The air vibrated. The dim sun flickered. Karoth lent his flame, not as fire, but as resonance. Vera joined, their strange voice blending in harmonies that seemed to come from another age. The 3 of them sang together, and the system trembled. One by one, the planets began to shine again. The cracks mended. Ice turned to oceans. The broken moons reformed. The dying sun brightened, its core pulsing stronger. And in that light, whispers stirred. Echoes of the Valir's forgotten songs, rising like ghosts reborn. Mara felt tears slide down her cheeks. They're still here, she whispered. The memory of them. Nothing ever truly dies while it is remembered, Karoth said softly. You have given them voice again. The newly brightened sun cast long rays through the void, catching the edges of the dragon's wings. For the first time in centuries, that corner of the galaxy burned with color again. The forge's fire was spreading. From the communications deck that had formed along Karoth's spine, faint signals began to come in. Voices, static at first, then clearer. Human, alien, robotic, all repeating fragments of melody. The choir was singing. Across countless light years, ships and stations, forgotten colonies and drifting relics, all were responding to her song. Mara stood in the golden glow, listening to the chorus rise. It was imperfect, uneven, full of raw emotion, but it was beautiful. It was alive. Vera smiled faintly. Do you hear it? That is the sound of defiance. The sound of a galaxy remembering it was never silent. Karoth tilted his massive head toward Mara. And all because a human girl sat beside a dragon's grave and dared to sing. Her throat tightened, the truth of it too vast to hold. I didn't save anyone, she said softly. I just answered. That is all salvation ever is, Karoth said. A single answer, given at the right time. They lingered there a while, listening to the music of rekindled stars. When at last they turned away, the path ahead was clear. An entire galaxy waiting to be healed, one song at a time. Mara looked into the endless dark, her fear finally gone. She could feel the pulse of the cosmos inside her chest, the echo of dragons and humans and all things that refused to fade. It wasn't a burden anymore, it was belonging. As they soared toward the next faint beacon of silence, she whispered, not to Karoth, not to Vera, but to the galaxy itself. Can you hear me? The stars pulsed in reply, bright and sure. The melody answered her, vast and tender, filling the void with light. And somewhere deep within that infinite harmony, she could almost hear her mother's voice, and all the voices that had ever sung before her, carrying her forward. Karoth's laughter rumbled like distant thunder. The galaxy hears you, Mara Elentaris. It always will. And so the dragon flew through a sky reborn, with a human girl upon his back and the light of creation blooming in their wake. The wormkin fled before them, the void retreating into its corners, for even the dark knew the truth at last. that as long as there was one voice left to sing beside a dragon's grave, the fire of the stars would never die.